Welcome Back Kotter was one of the most popular sitcoms of its time, and audiences were sad when the show was taken off the air for good. The show was initially faced with controversy, and naysayers felt it was doomed from the start, but the show managed to span 4 seasons and 95 episodes. But eventually the show didn't go on, and it came to an end. Let's look back at the scene that took Welcome Back Kotter off the air for good. How the show started. Welcome Back Kotter ran for 4 seasons and a total of 95 episodes from 1975 to 79. The show followed a high school teacher, Gabe Kotter, played by Gabe Kaplan, who teaches a remedial class at a racially and ethnically diverse high school. The remedial students, nicknamed the Sweat Hogs, were deemed useless by the principal. It was up to Kotter to try his luck to help these students turn their life around. The show traces its beginnings from Gabe Kaplan's own life. He had a successful career as a stand-up before starring on the show. One of his routines involved him discussing his school days and some of the characters he met along the way. The show was based upon these stories Gabe told during his stand-up routines. He discussed a group of guys who never quite grew up. These characters became the prototype for the Sweat Hogs. When the show was created, it wanted to showcase a diverse group of students. It featured Lawrence Hilton Jacobs playing a cool African-American student named Freddie Washington, better known as Boom Boom. Robert Haggis played Juan Epstein, a Puerto Rican hustler. Ron Palillo played Arnold Horshack, who was the class clown. And John Travolta became a household name by playing Vinnie Barbarino, an Italian-American ladies' man. The characters were loved by the audience, though not immediately. School desegregation was still underway in parts of the U.S., and it had just been a decade since the Civil Rights Act was passed. The school desegregation, however, wasn't welcomed everywhere. Forced busing became a serious issue in Boston, and the first episode of Welcome Back Kotter was briefly banned in the city due to concerns it might cause an uproar. There were also concerns that the Sweat Hogs represented negative stereotypes of the diverse groups that exist in America. There was even a boycott aimed at canceling the show. Despite the harsh criticism and controversy, the show went on. Welcome Back Kotter is now remembered as one of the most popular sitcoms of all time. Before we tell you more about Welcome Back Kotter, be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to Factsverse if you haven't already. Behind the scenes. Lawrence Hilton Jacobs loved working on Welcome Back Kotter. He said several times in interviews that it was one of the best experiences of his acting career. Travolta also enjoyed his role, and this was the show that helped catapult him to stardom. He used this fame to find more roles in cinema. The show premiered in the 1970s, and this was also the decade when Travolta landed his most famous roles in films like in Carrie, Grease, and Saturday Night Fever. Travolta considers his work on Welcome Back Kotter to be one of his best acting experiences. He mentioned that he and his cast members really got into their characters at a time when method acting was becoming more popular. They lived as their characters, and no doubt this is what made the show a great success. As it got more popular, audiences appreciated the deeper messaging behind the laughs. It was a show that showed a diverse range of characters getting along with each other and looking out for each other. This served as a great model for what Americans hoped for their country. Racial tensions still existed, and Welcome Back Kotter was an example of how we should see ourselves as Americans and not divide ourselves into small factions. The show also depicted many of the anxieties and stresses that American teenagers had to experience. While this has become commonplace on shows today, this was groundbreaking in the 70s. The show wasn't as dark as its subject matter, however. While audiences might be comfortable with dark and gritty material mixed with humor today, sitcoms in the 70s still had to be lighthearted, even when they dealt with serious issues. But while the show might have seemed a success from the audience's perspective, tensions were brewing behind the scenes as the show progressed. While Travolta was committed to the show, he also had to take time off to act in films. Kaplan, the star of the show, didn't even appear in a few episodes as he briefly quit, demanding a salary increase. Marcia Strassman played Julie Kotter, Gabe's wife. While they may have played a loving couple on screen, Marcia eventually became fed up with working on the show. She didn't particularly enjoy working with Gabe Kaplan, and this caused tension on set. By the time the 3rd season came around, the show's ratings had also begun to decline. While the cast members became popular through their roles, there were also concerns they'd become typecast. Lawrence Hilton Jacobs later starred as Joe Jackson in the TV miniseries Jackson's An American Dream, yet didn't quite manage to step out of his role in Welcome Back Kotter. The scene that took it off the air. On June 8, 1979, the final episode of Welcome Back Kotter aired. This was titled The Breadwinners and depicted a feud between Freddie Boom Boom Washington and Juan Epstein. In the episode, the two characters are both competing for a job. Washington lands the job before Epstein ever gets a chance to attend the interview. This leads them to settle their score over a fight. The moral of the story was that friendship mattered more and that everyone should try to get along. The deeper meaning was America was a divided country and it was important for Americans to stick together. The episode was well received and a fitting end to the show. The scene of Washington and Epstein crawling on the mats after failing to fight each other is perhaps the scene that took Welcome Back Kotter off the air for good. It was a poignant one that had the right level of humor without concealing the bigger picture. It seemed the stories and characters couldn't go further after this episode. Many of the actors were now adult, and the stories weren't always able to transition with their age. Many of the cast members were also moving on to different projects and wanted to call it quits with Welcome Back Kotter. By the time the show ended, audiences felt it left on a good note. It was perhaps best for the show's team to quit while they were ahead. Nevertheless, it remains one of the funniest and most influential American TV sitcoms. In fact, one can argue it's an important show that deserves a second look. It was a show that dared to poke fun at racial and ethnic stereotypes. While this wasn't new in American television, with Welcome Back Kotter, the intention was to show that we were all equal, rather than trying to denigrate anyone. It was a show that gave us the message we should all get along. While the cast members moved on to other projects and even made significant career changes, they're always remembered for their work with Welcome Back Kotter. Now it's time to hear from you. Who is your favorite character from Welcome Back Kotter? Let us know in the comment section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.